And then there's also bank balance involved. Is it involved in your matchmaking process as well?
I find it a bit hypocritical of like, we want equality, but then we never want to pay the bills.
How many profiles does one person see?
We still set up a handful of dates. Like, we don't mass matchmake.
And the waiting game? Do they like the waiting game?
Not at all.
Today, we are in conversation with this amazing woman who doesn't have any imposter syndrome. Her father told her at the age of 16, it's okay if she doesn't know how to make a roti, but it's imperative for her to go and find a job for herself and start earning. We also have a Bollywood-ish love story in the end. But was it a happy ending? Stay tuned and find out more on Behind Closed Doors. Thank you so much, Naina, for coming behind closed doors. How are you doing today?
Very well, thank you. And it's my pleasure to be here.
Awesome. So, and I'll just start from the beginning. I know you have achieved a lot in this glorious career of yours, but I'll start from the beginning. Where did it all begin? Your journey? Where are you from? We want to know everything about you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually grew up in Southeast Asia, in Thailand to be particular. I went to a United Nations school. Had a very multicultural upbringing because there were people from over 20 countries in my class. So it was really a wonderful childhood. I moved to India as a teenager and got, completely diverted into the ICSE system, which was like a big cultural shock because it was just uniforms and like different,
And
languages.
The studies were also different?
Completely. So Bombay, I wasn't alien to, I'll still call it Bombay if that's okay, because I think it's an emotion and not just a city. But it was great because, I had grandparents here, extended family here, and I always knew from a young age that I wanted to write. So sometimes, I met one of my friends from Belgium recently, like a couple of years ago when I'd gone on a media trip, and she was like, we just knew you would grow up to become a journalist because it was so obvious.
You love
even
writing.
in school. And I'm like, really? So I was always good at creative writing and just, was interested in people. So, what are people doing? What's new? What's like the best meal you can have? Where
did you also love people watching?
A little
Observing
bit. Yeah,
people?
yeah, a little bit. But I think it was their stories, right?
Right.
So how they've sort of risen from nothing to something or made an idea work or risen against adversity, I think is inspiring, right? And I think that's why platforms like this exist because everyone wants to know, hey, what did you do? What did you try?
What is your
yeah,
story?
what is your story? So I started, my first internship was at the Indian Express and I worked in a gully called Chivda Gully. So every day when I had to go to work,
your personality and you working at Chivda Gully,
I had to take a bus to Lal Bagh. I had to walk through this place where there was chili powder, clouds of chili powder in the air, and I had to literally, I shut my eyes and get to the office, and it was all hardcore journalism. So it was just like,
there were a lot of women out there? Were you one of
Not really. Yeah, I think in the main news team there were very few women, but a lot of the editors or like features editors were women. So I realized early on like that part of like the softer part of news is what I'm interested in, and I worked with formidable people, and grew from strength to strength. So I tried a stint in public relations to see if like that's my jam, and very early on I realized that I can't suck up to people, so it's not my jam.
That's awesome. We really need to take a pause here and say, do not suck up to people. It's not worth it. Yeah.
Or like, just, I think we're all heart, or sometimes there's a no filter, right? Aspect that comes in. And then I worked with Elle magazine, which was like really fantastic.
So from an Indian Express, sorry to cut you. I'm going to cut you out a lot of time because I have questions. From Indian Express, now this is serious journalism. You go to Elle, which is fashion.
Yes.
Lifestyle.
And prior to that, I worked with the same group with another magazine called Beautiful People, which was about, it was a high society magazine about like luxury and good food and good wine and a good life. And I think that taught me a lot, really opened my eyes to like, what's happening in the world. And I think we were also globally going through a great time. I would say 2006, 7, 8 were like prime years, right? In terms of economy till the whole Lehman crash happened. And, there was a ripple effect also in India. But I think it was just like people were living, the super rich life, and this is relevant.
They were enjoying life. They were enjoying the wine and dine.
Exactly. And you see it, I think I've seen a resurgence of it now with like this,
People loving
if
luxury.
you haven't been to Jamnagar, you haven't arrived yet, I guess. But,
we are nobodies. Not yet.
But that whole, I think wanting to sort of live your best life and all of that was something I was exposed to quite early on.
And you were very sure from the beginning you wanted to live your best life. There was no in between.
I mean, I think if you're passionate about whatever it is that you decide, I think you got to go for it, right? In the event that you figure out that you are passionate about something, but your aptitude or skill set doesn't match, you have to pivot. But I think that is the best way to actually experience what you can do. Is there something you can't? Like, I think when I did the PR stint, it really taught me, like, it's something I'm not, while it's fun, it's just something I'm not super enthusiastic about. And, I'm not interested in maintaining a brand's image. I'm probably interested in the other aspects, right? Like, could be challenges or like what, how they're sort of narrating their stories. So it's kind of complementary, but still very different. And then after about 5 years at L, I wanted to move on and do something new. And my co-founder, who also happens to be my sibling, decided to poach me. So
there was no rivalry there?
No, he was just like, hey, what are plans? And I'm like, I don't know. I'll figure, I'm looking, I'm taking a break.
Why did you want to leave L?
So I think the media world is really, really fun, but crazy hectic. Like, it is, you are working, almost 12 hours a day. It is there are periods in a month, like in any print sort of establishment where like you got to produce the magazine, the pages will go out, the layouts will happen, the shoots need to happen. So it's a very high adrenaline kind of space.
Did you have people working under you?
No, we were all I was part of the editorial team. Okay. So I was in the features team. So I had a copy editor, we had an assistant editor, we had an editor-in-chief.
Was it toxic? I'm just asking.
I mean, I think I will sort of be honest enough to say, like, you have to be very thick-skinned, I think, to survive in those cultures. And I see a big difference from that time to now this time, where people are more aware, they're more cognizant of what is toxic, what is acceptable, what's not acceptable, right?
And with the social media world, it's everywhere.
That, and I think even Gen Z, like the way they operate, the way they think, they'll just say, no, I will not do it.
And there was no option of saying
And we could never say that. We're like, it was thrown at us like a challenge, it'd be like, get it done. And you'd be like, oh my God, I have to get it done. So if you've had like 4 sleepless nights about a huge event that you're throwing with a big designer you will have those sleepless nights. But I think people now have just been like, no, I need my
space and time.
I need my space, I need my peace, I need to leave at 6 o'clock. Thank you very much. See ya.
So and that I'll come to you when you are running the team, right? I would love to talk about this Gen Z
phenomena.
Yeah, phenomena is what we can call them. Yes, of course. So
because I'm an 80s kid, so I'm still like, we were just, and I think it's just maybe a cultural conditioning as well. I think we were raised like that. Like, even if we had access to things and luxury, like our parents were always like, hey, you got to earn it. If you want that designer bag, you got to earn it. It wasn't just like hand it over
to us.
And there was no work profile as a content creator, right? So I recently learned about someone who imitates a popular Bollywood personality, bought their first apartment in Bombay. And then I said, yaar, humne kya kiya hai life mein?
Humne kya kiya life mein is the question. Yeah, I mean,
we should have sharpened those skills in front of the mirror.
It was, I think, back then it was not there, right?
So nothing was online. Even if you did great work or you reached great heights, like you were at this very exclusive event, you would never Instagram it, right? It was just behind closed doors.
It was not documented. If there's no snap, it never happened.
Yeah. So it was more of a quieter, more subtle time where like you knew people, you made good connections, and it wasn't so much about, I think what's happened now, if I may say so, is like, I think there's a real world and then there's a real world.
And real world nobody wants to show.
Yeah, or there is definitely a manipulation in sort of what we are seeing, so I think that is a thing with everyone, right?
Would you want to talk more about this manipulation thing? Because I think a lot of people who watch us, right, are very young people.
Yeah.
And they all want to become, content creator is easy money.
Yeah.
You post a reel and you get 5 lakh rupees. Here,
correct.
A lot of times, salaries of CXOs.
Correct. It would take you like, I don't know, four years of work experience
Maybe
or 5
more,
years.
yeah.
No, absolutely, to even reach
And
that
this can be
level.
monthly salaries of people and they
Correct.
earn it through one reel.
Correct.
So how do you feel about it?
So, I mean, look, I think the world has changed and we need to accept it. But I also feel like you need to be aware of what is actually the ground reality. So, like a lot of people, because of high pressure situations, have mental health issues, right? Like they're not able to sleep at night because they're constantly anxious. Anxiety is not just a COVID side product. I think it's always been there, but how we handle it has changed. There are people, let's say you see a friend, right, who's living this dreamy life with like, her husband and traveling to exotic destinations and stuff like that. You will be surprised. There are people who are at a brink of a divorce, but you don't see it on social media. All you see are the happy moments, the pretty diamond ring,
because of comparison
vacation
as well. There is a lot of comparison.
There's pressure. There's pressure to be a virtual persona that may or may not, so for personally, I find it very awkward, right? Like, I find that as a business, we are asked to get on social media, make reels and
talk about
ourselves. And I'm just like, it is so like anti my personality that I'm horrified. I'm like, how do people, they dance in front of the camera, I'm just like, yeah, unless it's my cousin's wedding, I don't want to dance in front of like
but
random people.
But you can speak about your product.
Yes. But again, maybe I resonate with something you said earlier, like maybe our work speaks for itself, or we've been brought up that way, where we're not so much about look at me and look at what I've achieved. It's about being.
So to cut you off, right, Naina? In your bio on Instagram, I won't see Forbes 30 under 30 or 40 under 40. I won't see that. You will not talk about yourself, or it will be very simple.
No, I mean, I think we talk about the brand,
right?
But I don't like to sort of get like really up close and personal
networking.
And like I think, but by the
our
grace
expressions are saying it all. Like what is happening?
By the grace of God, we've worked with amazing people, right? So I have worked with people on a Forbes list. I've worked with people who have public profiles doing really well. I open the paper and I'm like, wow, it's my client at a summit, giving his opinion on something. I have worked with professional athletes who've represented India, on a global platform at games, and they're like female athletes, and it makes me, you get a sense of pride, even though you've had nothing to do with their sports journey. You're just like, oh my God, that's amazing. You take a picture and you send it to them. So I think when you surround yourself, right, like there's a Japanese saying that says you are the sum of the 5 people that you hang out with.
Yep.
And I think that's what I like to do. One of the reasons I'm very inspired at Sirf Coffee is because I meet fantastic people and I feel motivated to be like, you should meet someone as awesome as you, right?
So, talking about Sirf Coffee, right? So, what inspired you to create a dating platform? Was it a personal experience?
Yeah, so the brainchild of the whole thing is actually my brother. And I think both of us, I mean, we're 4 years apart, but I think we came of age and we had these challenges. So there was, your time is near. You
have
must
crossed 25?
Yes. Oh. And, what's happening? Like, are you dating somebody? Are you in love? And I think individually everyone dates people or gets into relationships, but you don't feel like this is the person I want to take home to mom and dad for whatever reason. And a lot of it is not even a result of your actions. I don't want to sound, like
you can sound anything that you
like
want.
Like a Panditji or fatalist, but the fact is that there is time, opportunity and place that comes together in a lot of situations in life, right? So a very hardworking person can say, I built a 100 crore company, in 20 years and I'm very proud of myself. But there were so many other factors that went your way. And I think there is luck.
There is luck.
There is meeting the right person at the right time. Like I always feel that one of my first clients was the MD of a bank. Okay. And he just tore a check and I was in my 20s, like late 20s, and he just said, here's the money, go for it. Let me know who I can meet.
So someone, an MD of a bank who has built MD of a bank, right?
Yes.
So that's a huge deal because we tend to assume that it's very easy for rich people. I'll use that word, right? It's very easy for rich people, for people who have connections across the industry to meet
Yeah,
Their
but
soulmate.
he, you know,
Soulmate, yeah.
yeah,
Partner.
absolutely. Or like maybe what happens also in workspaces is they're dominated by a certain gender.
Right.
Right. So if the banking world 20 years ago, maybe I don't know how relevant it is today, but it's like 90% men. So like, how do you meet somebody? Or if you're like, you know, you have a certain stature professionally.
Will they understand your lifestyle?
Yeah, or like you're sensitive about it.
Right.
You know, I find that a lot of people don't feel so comfortable putting themselves out there. I know the apps exist, but it's not for everyone, right?
So there is Raya and there is
Yeah, which is like again a very exclusive, you know,
Platform.
invitation-based thing, or for a certain profile, right? But I think there are people who look into their personal disposition and figure out what works or doesn't. So when we came of age, we said, hey, well, we want to meet people without 16 relatives, you know, not going to a 5-star hotel. How do you do that, you know, in a non-pressure-free...
arranged marriage or a love marriage?
No, I met my partner, thankfully, through a friend.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, my brother Sunil actually met his wife through Sirf Coffee. So, he is the first...
He's the first...
success story, so to speak, or like public success story. And so, he's married and lives with his 2 kids in London. And so, I think it came literally from the fact that this is the gap in the market. Let's build it. Let's put it out there. And then we'll see what happens.
So when you started pitching this, was it you started with friends and family?
Yes, I actually used to send out 100 emails a day to like everyone I knew, and I'll be like, hey, this is what we're doing. We're working with people. And I think we were also fairly lucky. A lot of amazing people responded and said, you know, my cousin from Hong Kong is single and he is just right for this. I'm going to pass on the website. And that's how we slowly built everything.
The first client, the closure, like we call it in sales, right? We call it closure. So when did that happen? That you got a list of bunch of amazing people coming together.
Correct.
And then when did you feel that, okay, this is going to be a success? Or how did that happen?
Right.
The first success story, apart from your brother,
Yeah,
of
so
course.
I think we also had someone get married even in the initial years of Sirf Coffee. Like it was within the first year, there was a couple that I had introduced in Bombay, between Bombay and the Middle East, and they did get married. And we sort of, then, you know, this light bulb goes off that this is real, it works, there's, you know, things happening. So I think you need to commercialize a service because of the vetting factor. You can maintain quality, you can sort of bring in standard processes, you can streamline the whole thing in a very professional way, right? Otherwise, if you think about it, matchmaking is like super random. You know, it's just like who, what, why. But the first thing we did was build an application process that still stands as of today. People have to apply to Sirf Coffee. They create a 10-minute application form. Then they swipe their card.
What are the questions you guys ask?
It's peripheral questions on pretty much everything. You know, who you are, where did you grow up, what do you do? We ask personal habit questions like, you know, drinking, smoking. These are things we all need to know. Who are you outside of work?
Right.
Which is like a question matchmakers don't ask, you know. I mean, traditionally you were asked to put your hobbies, which is my favorite because, you know, people write painting, reading, dancing. And I'm like, when's the last time you know, you did any of this? Never. I just put it down on the form. So we actually want to get a sense of people talk about like what their life outlook is. You know, they'll say something like, I'm an introvert, or like, you know, I'm somebody who savors experiences. Someone else will say, I'm the life of the party. If I'll crack 15 jokes and have everyone looking at me.
If you have someone who's the life of a party and an introvert, will you match them?
So I think there needs to be a balance, like on various other fronts. Like I personally feel you shouldn't be with someone who's exactly like you, because that can cause a lot of clashes. It's like fire meets fire, right? Even in terms of personality, you need a balance. So what I've realized is like even extroverts, for example, it's all very selective.
Right.
You know, it's in what situation. There are people, I'm super extroverted at work, right? I can be your best friend in 10 minutes. But if you met me at a party, I'll take my time. You know, I'll be like, who, what, where,
like, oh, she didn't
are we really having a good conversation? Or are we just, you know, is
just
it because
saying hi, hello?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think there are sides, like multifaceted people who are different in different situations. And I think that's what we need to crack. I feel at work, my realization is at Sirf Coffee, 90% are super type A. They're like on it, they're hustling, they're, you know, passionate,
and they
ambitious.
want partners similar to them?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
That's the thing. So now outside of that, who are you at home? You'll find that the guy who works 18 hours a day, घर पे आके कुछ नहीं करता है.
He's talking about my husband.
He doesn't move. He doesn't move from the couch. He'll be like, just there for like 4 hours. And like, a lot of things will happen in the day and then someone will come into the house and be like, oh, you're still there. So there are people like that. There are people who are high energy or like very, let's seize the day kind of thing. So they want to do like 20 activities, even on a holiday.
Yeah.
How do you holiday? Is like a thing, right? Because if
be.
someone just wants to lounge and de-stress,
and somebody wants to go around and
exactly and explore the whole country in like 4 days, how do you reach a middle ground? So I feel like there's a lot of nuances that we have to keep in mind instead of, this is why we don't do personality tests. I'll be very honest. Like, it's great for me to know about my personality if I were doing an aptitude test for my career of like, if I'm in the 10th grade or something like that. But I feel, how can that be used to find a partner? You will also change with time. So maybe 10 years ago, you loved to party and you were out till 4 a.m. every night. How much are you doing that now? How has your personality changed? What do you see value in?
Do you guys also go about their previous relationships, ask them questions about it?
Yes. We touch upon that because I think context is important, right? So I have worked with people who have been married before, are single parents. I need to know what the dynamic is with like their ex-partner or their family. Like these things are also important to someone else, right?
So, and people are honest?
90% of the time, yes. There is a sliver of sometimes doubt that we have, but I think to keep it really, honest, you can't hold these things against someone, right. And you can't be like the FBI about it either. Like it so happens that even in my 10-year career, I've had 1 or 2 instances where we found out someone had, kind of tweaked their age a little bit. I'll be honest, right? So we started show ID now. Now when you come for an interview, bring your passport or bring your...
So you take an interview process. So we'll go to the process and everything.
Yeah,
right?
But it's something we built in because we said, look, we need to see ID, right? So if you're married before, we need the first page and last page of the divorce decree. This doesn't mean I need to know like really intimate personal details, but we just need to know that everything's in the clear, because the way I see it is we are taking responsibility.
Someone is trusting you.
Absolutely, to some degree. And then there is a window that is untouchable, right? Maybe there are deep, dark secrets about you, Ragini, that only your husband, like a side to you that nobody
else knows.
has seen at work. But only your husband's seen it maybe like once in 5 years. And he's like, Ragini did this and I can't forget that night. We all have that, right? But I think the people I work with, they put their cards on the table. Like I've worked with people who've been married twice. So
do you take such cases? I mean, you take
yes, absolutely.
Case, I don't know, what do you guys call it?
But I think what are the circumstances?
Right.
What are details, right? So if it sounds a bit off, then I don't feel comfortable working with them.
Do you take, when you're taking an interview, right? Is it also gut feeling that comes into
100%. There is I would say a pretty large, there's a 50% gut feeling that kicks in. It's vibe, it's energy, it's what someone is saying, it's what someone is not saying, right? So
you read between the lines?
Yeah, I think you need to be, a matchmaker is a little bit like going to therapy, right? So you can tell the therapist, I'm amazing, sab theek hai, I'm killing it at work, my life is great, I have 15 friends, and ghar jaake maybe you're not doing any of those things. But like, how can someone help you when you don't disclose things to them? So I think people really open up, I'll be honest, and they are vulnerable. I've worked with also like women who've been in like really bad marriages bordering on sometimes abuse and things like that. And they're very candid about it because they feel we should know that this is something they've experienced, and to just, that way we're far more sensitive, right? About like what's happened with this person, the fact that this woman may take an extra 3 months to trust somebody,
right?
Because of what she's been through. So if I didn't know that, it's not a one size fits all.
It's not,
Yeah.
So why Sirf Coffee? Why the name? How did the name come up?
So literally, I think to sort of emulate the premise, which is Sirf means just, in Hindi, and globally, most Indians know, we relate to Bollywood and Hindi, and there's a certain culture, and it's just coffee, right? So where can you meet somebody who's on the same page, like-minded, seems like a good match in a pressure-free setting, right? I find that the matrimonials are very heavy-loaded with like agenda, so
You have to be
shaadi.com
single.
is kyun aaye ho? Shaadi karne aaye ho.
Shadi. And yours is Sirf Coffee is not about marriage. It's about a
It's
journey.
matchmaking. Yeah,
it's a journey.
and it is a journey. You're absolutely right. Where organically, if you fall in love with somebody, you want to marry them, great. That's how it should be,
Yeah.
right? But it can't be like, I am looking for someone, so let's work backwards, right? Let's make sure he ticks all the boxes or she ticks all the boxes, and then the purpose is we need to get married. It needs to
But
be
you're
in
not
6
finding
months.
a job, right? That it needs to tick all the boxes. You are
Absolutely,
finding you want to
absolutely.
go home to someone.
Yes.
Like, so that's what I believe. For me, marriage is when 18-hour work is over. I go home to someone and I can just share my day or just be.
Absolutely,
Right?
absolutely. So I think in the Indian, cultural context, shadi, getting married was organized by people in the community or elders.
Right.
Like remember the Swayamvars and you read in Amar Chitra Katha. Like that was my exposure to mythology because NRI kids, we had no classes, but we had Tinkle and all of that too. So you used to read about like 100 people and then one person will go and just get married to somebody.
The opinions didn't matter.
Nothing did.
Yeah.
It was just, so again, you're basing your judgment on how they look, what they may have studied or achieved, what degree, what their, job is or their salary is. Acha khasa ladka lagta hai, let's do it, right? That doesn't fly anymore. Now you want to be with your best friend, yeah? You want to be attracted to them because you want romance in your life, and you want to take this person home. So historically, it's been 3 different people. Now, Indians want all of that in one person.
So Akshay Kumar once said in an interview, right? He said that lust is more important than love. He did. He said that lust happens, lust is there.
I think he also had 3 girlfriends before he finally...
Yes, he did. For at least 10-15 years of marriage, lust remains and then love comes in the picture. What do you have to say about that?
I mean, I disagree because I think love at first sight is lust. So you can't love somebody. Let's say someone very good looking walks into this room.
Right.
And we'll all look at them and be like, wow,
what a personality. Looks
what
so
a personality, God-given looks, good vibe, he's sexy, right? Or she's sexy. That's what how can you say that's love when you don't know this person? When you've not explored, you don't even know what kind of vacation they like to take, what kind of food they eat, what's their good side, what's their bad side.
And that's always ends up in a disaster, right?
Yeah, so you need to, I think, distinguish between 2 things, right? Love is a little bit of a concept, right? And then being with somebody is different. A relationship is a lot of doing. Yeah, it's not enough to like just also love this person.
Yeah,
so I think lust is temporary. Like, you wake up to somebody, next to somebody, you can be very turned on by them. But if you don't get along or if you don't have a fundamentally good relationship, I mean, I don't think they'd be very happy.
Yeah. So in this world, adding to this, right? In this world of swiping right and left, and you have so many options. You have so many options, right? You can just sleep with one, go hook up with the next, ghost another. How does Sirf Coffee solve that? Like, do you only invite people who are very serious, who are seriously looking, though they might be having a side hustle of other apps, not going to take names, but how does Sirf Coffee solve for that?
Right. So we are a completely personalized offline approach meant for people who are looking for something meaningful and long-term. Like 100% intention kicks in, but it's also like, how do you want to go about it, right? So my goal whenever we work with someone new is like, this person should find somebody, get really excited and happy about it and pursue that relationship, not be on 15 other platforms. That is the goal, right? Now, if they choose to get on a different dating app or a matrimonial, that's personal choice. So people's friends and family also look out for them. But what is the intention here? It has to be a long-term relationship that can become something, more. In my experience, inevitably, almost everyone I meet does want marriage. They say that, sometimes to sound cool, you're like, shadi kisko karni hai, main to khush hu, I do whatever.
I mean, why do they come
No, like,
to you?
I mean, generally people say that, right? But I think at heart, we're all sort of You know, we need companionship. We
you
need
do.
love. We need that one person that we can share our lives with. So I'm interested in working with someone like that.
And how many profiles do you see on a daily basis?
So we match, you know, in terms of when we're matchmaking,
Yeah.
we set up about 60 dates, sometimes just in like over Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So we're looking at least 100 people. We're talking to people all the time. There'll be a development. You'll get a phone call from someone or an email saying, oh my God, I had a great time last night. I spent 4 hours with this person. I can't wait to see them again. Then you have to make sure the other person
is also-
feels the same way. So it's a lot of people. And it's a lot of emotions and it's a lot of feelings.
Is
just out
algorithm
there.
anyway involved in this matchmaking process?
Not at all. So we use technology for two things. One is access, in the sense we are a website because we are accessible to everybody, every Indian in the world. I have worked with someone in Nairobi to someone in a small town outside Milan in Italy that I've never heard of, to people in big cities. So Indians are everywhere. I
Right.
think we need to leverage technology in the right way. If you are based in Ahmedabad and there's a great guy in Bombay, talk to him on a VC. Why wait? He will fly, he will meet me, I will go meet him. There needs to be, like I said, we need to use technology in the right way, right? And the second aspect is, I think it's actually a boon to sort of foster a relationship in the initial stages to lead to real life interactions.
yeah.
So if someone asks me to fly somewhere for a person I've never met, I would think twice, right? But
Right.
we use technology to keep track of, like, say, you know, documenting someone's journey. So if I've been on 5 dates, who did I enjoy meeting and why? You know, personal information, we need to sort of keep in demographic details, right? Matchmaking is part science and part intuition.
Yeah.
The scientific part is demographic detail that we cannot change. Like, you are Ragini, this is your height, this is where you're from. You know, the fact
So
that
this height and weight things, you guys take that data?
we take height, we take, you know, like personal habits. We also take like dietary habits, which has become a huge.
Cause of concern?
Oh my goodness.
Jain versus non-veg ka veg chammach kyun lagaya and all of that.
I mean, it's just, I'm open to everything, but I prefer vegetarian.
So on Tuesday, you cannot have anda on Tuesday and all of that?
I think it's not so much that. I think when people live together, they're just like, how easy will it be to live with this person? You know, if I go to a restaurant and they want to eat pork on the table and like, I'm vegan, how do we, you know,
Sit together and
yeah.
eat it,
So to
yeah.
me, I mean, it sounds absolutely ridiculous because I'm a Sindhi married to a Gujarati, and my husband's, you know, in my husband's family, they don't cook meat at home.
Okay.
And I don't think I use that as a reason to not be with him.
No, it's the same. I'm a vegetarian and and my husband is a hardcore non-vegetarian.
Yeah.
And I'm
I mean,
completely okay
I'm
with
just
it.
like, you eat your food, I'll eat my food.
food.
We'll still live.
And but you know, sometimes this happens at very good match. Okay, it must
Yeah.
have happened, right? And because of this dietary thing, that it comes into the picture.
I think if people are really like into each other, they'll look through it. What I've learned is that everyone comes to me with a wish list, thinking we are some kind of matchmaking Amazon, right? Ki ye sab features dal do.
Filter kar do.
They will manufacture a product for me from somewhere with a person who has all these qualities.
So will they be like filtering 6 feet hona chahiye, fair hona chahiye, MBA hona chahiye?
I get asked everything.
Right.
Like, there was someone I worked with, and I can't forget this, from South India, who said, I'm a doctor, he needs to be a doctor, but his parents need to be doctors also. It's not enough ki usne MBBS pass kiya hai. The parents also need to be doctors, and he should not have any pedigreed dog because he should adopt. Agar kutta chahiye to adopt karo. Like, how? And I'm just
And these were like,
thank you very much, but
so how long did that conversation last?
I mean, I think we didn't go on to work with them, but there were like a list of things, you know, like what someone should do or should not do. And to me, that is the biggest problem, that you don't have tolerance. Like, how can you not be okay or open-minded? There's 5 things that I enjoy doing, and there's 5 things that I may not enjoy doing, right? How do we strike a balance? How can we
There's
say...
no perfect picture, right? There is
Yes.
not a like, it shows, Bollywood shows that, oh, ye hua, wo, and everybody met and it was happily ever after.
There will never be perfection. And this is my main problem. When y'all are looking at a Instagram wedding of a celebrity and you're like, oh, Kiara's so pretty and he's so sweet and all of that, there's a lot of stuff that we're not seeing also, right?
Right.
So there's got to be an understanding. But I think we've romanticized, Disney movies, as they say, has, literally screwed up everyone's vision of love, because you think there's some perfect person
He's going to come
waiting
and
at the
kiss.
end who will rescue you. And sorry, ladies, but that's not true at all. You need to be the hero or heroine of your own story. I really believe that. But these are things that we have to be open-minded about, if the person's right.
So in India, a lot of times this happens that when matchmaking comes into the picture, you're just not marrying the man or the woman, you're marrying the family.
True.
There are pundits involved. There is relatives involved. You have to make everyone happy. Do you go about doing that, or?
So as a service, we don't get involved. We don't do astro matchmaking at all. In fact, we make fun of it. Okay. So if you go to our website, there was a quote that said, "What I love about my husband is his birth time, complexion, and height." Said no one ever, right?
Yeah.
Because that's absolutely true. But I do understand that in the Indian context, we are a very family-oriented people. It is important to us. And I think people figure it out. Like, we have had so many people get married, become parents, and they're not from the same community, or they're from different countries, and they've built a foundation or built that understanding. So I would say sometimes 6 months in, people will say, "Hey, come meet my family. Let's just catch up over a beer." Versus, "Aap ghar pe aiye," and you'll go with some trays of gifts or something. Yeah, I think it is the foundation. If the couple is got a good understanding, you have to also play the buffer. I feel like, and you're married, you get this. Like, your partner also has to support you when needed.
So I had an intercaste marriage. So I just went about breaking all the rules.
Yeah.
So I'm a Hindu and he's a Muslim. So I'm just like,
yeah,
let's do it.
And if there's a situation, like there's a family expectation, like you got to support each other, right? And not be like, "Hey, you do everything and I'm just going to sit back." So I find that even culturally, there are differences, right? And it's very important to ask your partner, "Are you comfortable? What do you want to do? How do we do this?"
So in marriages, usually what happens is the wishes of the women, the bride and the groom, are kept aside. And what is happening is your relatives ko ye chahiye, you should serve here this.
But that's changing, Ragini. Like, the generation or the people I meet are like vocal and woke.
And this is what I want, and this is how it should be.
So
do they ask you for a viral wedding also post that?
No. So we don't. So we set up literally the first date, right? We set up the first date where we say, "We'll put you in a room with someone potentially where sparks may fly. The rest is up to you." So if people want to take it ahead, they go on to get married. I mean, there's in fact a wedding that I will be missing because I'm traveling this month, which I was really excited for, because they've been living together for 4 years now.
Oh, wow. And they met through Sirf Coffee?
Yes, they met through Sirf Coffee in 2018. They decided to live together. They have 2 adopted dogs. And I believe last year he popped the question.
Oh, he did?
So he, I think none of us, I mean, I know they're together and they're happy, and that's what matters to me. But, the fact that they're taking it one step ahead, people are in control. So she actually called me. It's funny when she's just like, "Oh my God, this is overwhelming." And I said, "Sit down, make a plan." Literally like how you guys, brainstorm for a work-related thing. Just literally brainstorm on what you want to do and then stick by it. And people who love you will respect that, or at least come to terms midway, right? Like, sometimes we do things chalo, for parents, for the happiness of parents or something. But I think now that's changing. I don't see women changing their surname. I don't see them changing, in a lot of communities. I met someone yesterday who said, "Oh, in Maharashtrians, we have to change our first name in the wedding." And she's like, "I didn't." And I'm like, good on you.
Good on you.
Little things like that. Or like, I don't want a kanyadan. Yeah, I don't want a wedding that sort of puts one gender above the other.
So do you go about telling this to the other person?
No. These are all their personal beliefs and opinions.
No, so for example, the Kanyadan part that you said, that the woman might have said that I don't want a Kanyadan. And the guy...
She will tell me that she's looking for a man who's open-minded and progressive.
Right.
But like, we don't get involved with any personal decisions, or even, some relationships, as you can imagine, they break up.
Right.
Right? So two
Do they
sides.
come blaming you?
No, not at all. They'll just be like really sad. and be like, this has happened, and like cry on your shoulder a little bit at
So
best.
you're also the therapist for them, right?
A little bit, yeah. Like, if Oprah had a big role to play here, that would really be helpful, because I think there's trust, and there's also, you are the entity that knows both parties,
sides, yeah.
right? So nothing, in fact, there's so much maturity. Just last week, I had a call with someone who was dating a guy for 9 months, and they parted ways and things didn't work out. But she's like, I really loved that time in my life. I cherished it. I felt so good. And I was just like in shock. I'm like a young person saying this instead of,
Just swiping right.
yeah, or just bitching someone out.
Yeah.
That's maturity. This is how you know that people are changing and their style and way of going about this whole thing is different. A man 20 years ago would have had to maybe marry someone to make a family, or like to pacify families and things like that. You see, I helped someone get married at 45 for the first time in Delhi, and he was a corporate person who had moved from the UK to Delhi, and he said, I just don't want to like marry someone who's my neighbor's, niece.
Daughter or something.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get to know her. We need to align. Where are we? I need to respect someone on many different levels.
Do parents also come sometimes in between this process?
We don't let them.
Yeah.
So we don't let any third party, be it neighbor, chacha, this, friend, best friend, bhai. I mean,
no one.
I honestly feel if you are someone who has a brain of your own, you have a spine, you will know what you want and you will speak it also, right? So if someone calls me and says, I have a son who's 35 years old, and I'm like, Auntie, fir aap kyun baat kar rahe ho phone pe?
What is he doing? You call this out loud?
Absolutely.
And that's so awesome, right? You need to cut the...
Because the parent will want something that's totally different from the 35-year-old son.
उनको घरेलू लड़की चाहिए.
Or like whatever it is, she could have a completely different concept of like potential chemistry, expectations. Now this guy will be on his own trip.
Right.
Which is why if he wants to meet someone, I need to talk to him.
Right.
Not like someone else. So I think parents want the best for you. Their intentions aren't bad. But so many people, like I had a grandmother who wrote to me saying, my granddaughter is 27 years old. They came from a very prominent old school family where like everyone was very educated, and she wrote me an email and I responded saying, dear Mrs. So-and-so, and like, here's the link. The granddaughter went, signed up, swiped her card, went forward. The grandmother was an outlet of awareness.
Right.
But she didn't intervene at all.
She didn't, right?
This was a sign to me that people are willing to let... I mean, I'll ask you a very direct question. Do you think you can change your husband?
Not at all. I don't want to also. I think that's his life.
So both are right. A, like you don't want to. And the second is you can't.
Yeah.
Even if you want to. So I think this generation, right, like 25 and up, they are very much in tune with what they want, what they desire, their goals. Like they're looking at examples of friends, like for instance, a Marwari person will say, I don't want a guy who, doesn't let me work.
Right.
Because probably this is something she saw 10, 15 years ago.
She saw her mom also. I saw my mom doing this.
Probably. Yeah. Absolutely. And then now I want to say like, but nobody wants that.
Right.
No guy comes up to me and says, I want a woman who'll sit at home.
Right.
They'll be like, what is she doing? In fact, there are men who are like, if she does a lot better than I do, I'm happy to be a house, like I can manage the baby at home.
House husband, yeah.
Yeah, and stay back or help
That's
with
an
duties
alien concept in India. As of now, I mean, the number of people that I speak to, and the good thing is that people are also leaving toxic marriages, toxic relationships. That is something that is now evolving in India, which of course our parents don't like talking about it, but I personally feel very, very happy because you were anyway not happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why don't you give yourself a second chance?
I think COVID also really fast-tracked that,
yeah,
if I may say so. Like that was such a difficult time, being holed up in a space with people, right? Could be family, could be a spouse, could be kids.
And suddenly you're spending all your time with
all
them.
your time, and then you've done a whole like rejig in your head of, am I really compatible or am I not? So a lot of people got divorced between 2020 and 2022. I see that like people who are in 30, 40-year-old marriages, like the oldest gentleman I've worked with is like 68 on Sirf Coffee.
So there is no age.
There's no age. Yeah, absolutely. And he was just like, so many things come to the forefront because you're spending your time at home, you're not going to work and distracted. Otherwise, look at everyone's lives in Bombay. You wake up, you do something in the morning, you leave for work, you come back straight at night, have dinner together, watch a little bit of TV, or I don't know, and then
Just go to sleep.
it's just a hamster on a wheel, right?
Yeah.
It's like routine. So when COVID happened, it's just like, are you gonna do the dishes or am I gonna do the dishes? Are we happy with each other? Do we have compatibility? I think people are re-asking all those questions.
Yeah, because you get married and then you come to know that, okay, now you have to also live with this person.
Yes.
And there's always this concept of receiver and giver. So I believe in this receiver. So how much am I willing to give and how much am I willing to receive also? Like, am I giving more than what I'm receiving?
Correct.
Do you also ask these questions to?
No, because I think, again, it's very like subjective and super personal, right? Like, I think attachment styles are very different. People will be different also. Like, one person that I work with could have had different relationships with, like, if she dated 3 guys, those relationships will be very different.
Do you talk about the relationships with the other person, that she had like 3-4 boyfriends? Or
No,
you don't.
I think that's private. In fact, I don't know why people do this, and maybe people watching can help. But I feel like on a first date, someone will go and have this verbal diarrhea.
Right.
Of like, I am this, I have gone through this, I was divorced, I was married to this person, ye hua, wo hua. I mean, at what point? You're meeting a stranger, first of all, right?
Why are you telling her
Is it
everything about
necessary?
Yeah.
Is it necessary? You all remember your first day of school when you made a new friend. How much did you share? Did you tell them everything about your life, or like it took time to build comfort and trust?
Do you give these? Do you help them when they go on a first date?
If they ask for advisory or tips or guidance, we definitely give it, and I think it's necessary. Unlike, we do KRAs at work,
right?
And we're constantly like, do this workshop, go to this executive leader. You'll really, I think you'd asked about imposter syndrome,
right.
All of that, right? On those aspects, we focus so much. But why do we not focus on how we can develop as a person in relationships?
Right.
Like, I just don't understand. There's so much shame when someone goes to therapy, if someone goes to a counselor. But like, maybe they need to, right? That's something that's not working for them.
Yeah, something is bothering them and you're not helping them out.
Or there's some trauma from something. They're not over a breakup. And I feel as matchmakers, we are mindful, right? Like, if a person has gone on 3 or 4 introductions and like 2 out of 3 are saying, or 2 or 3 are saying, this person, I didn't have a good time with them at all. Is there a need to introspect? And there could be, right? It's something I may have said.
So do you guys do a deep dive after the date also? You do?
Yes, we do a feedback, like a bit of an introspection. So obviously, if 2 people are into each other, हम तो याद ही नहीं रहते हैं. It's like, okay, bye, see you, I had a great time. But if they didn't, then it's just, we need to get into how we're coming across, right? And I self-reflect, like maybe when I was younger, and I think I have a very sarcastic sense of humor that rubs off on people sometimes in good ways or bad ways. But I just realized that, God, I probably sounded like an arrogant, yuppie back in the day, right? Like, because it may have not gone down well with them. They didn't
like your personality.
Yeah,
let me just say.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I also found, like, when I was dating earlier, like, and I worked in media and I worked many hours. They would get intimidated. They're like, oh, media mein to kya hoga? Ghar kitne baje aayegi? This, that. I mean.
And what was your answer in all?
I was just like, I'll come when I want. I'll take the keys. So like, you figure.
Yeah,
right?
you figure.
But these are things that you can pick up. So feedback is good to understand how you're coming across to someone. And also, I think for a plain awareness, which seems to be completely absent sometimes.
So we'll talk about work, Naina, and we'll talk about Sirf Coffee, right? You are building Sirf Coffee since how many years now?
It's been over 10 years.
Over 10 years of building and matchmaking.
Yes.
So your tagline says for global Indian. So how do you describe a global Indian?
I think a majority of people who come to us are somebody who could have had a mixed background. So they may have grown up resonating with the identity of being Indian. They're culturally rooted. They are sort of very aware of the fact that, what kind of, if you're Punjabi, you live a different life from maybe someone who's Gujarati compared to a Syrian Christian.
Right.
Depending on your roots. So I think there's a sense of pride, right, in who we are and what we want. And you want to find someone like-minded. I'm not saying the reason to be with somebody has to be that they are completely aligned with our identity, but there's a sense of familiarity,
And it
which
is
feels very
exclusive
endearing.
for Indians?
It is for Indians anywhere in the world. So I would say over 70% of our members have either, for instance, studied or lived overseas for some time.
Okay.
We just find it to be a pattern. It's not something we proactively look for. In the last 6 years, India has really risen in sort of the demand for Sirf Coffee, which blows my mind, frankly, because you think country of 1 billion, right? And wow, like we're in demand. But the fact is, I realized that we've all evolved. So if I'm working with someone in Raipur who went to an Ivy League university, right, who's super open-minded and she's a fun girl and she's 30 years old, she will want to date somebody that she feels matches up. And there's nothing wrong with that. So I think it's not Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore as we associate India, right? It's not just tier one cities.
It's just not the metro cities.
Yeah, it's just that amazing people like living in Jaipur, living in Lucknow, Chennai, you know, just everywhere. You know, I've worked with people in Goa.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, who've built a life there. And I think India as a sort of idea has changed, right? You find people who one of my clients who's from London just said she's coming to India to spend like 4-5 months, mix of business and leisure. I think 20 years ago,
it was an alien concept.
Yeah, it's just like, what will I do there? It's too different. But now we've sort of just
imbibing the culture.
And identities have changed, right? So if they're living here, some of them want to do sometimes a spiritual retreat because that's where these aspects are needed. As you grow older and you get busier, you also want to take care of your mental health. So they'll come here, go to a retreat, you know, be on some kind of diet and like introspect and do yoga. And then they'll also be like, if I meet a cool person, I can think of being with them. I think as a concept, we can resonate. And I think I can resonate. So if I was a potential client for my service, I can resonate because I want somebody who may not have spent their time in like 5 different countries, but is open-minded, chooses to like have similar life goals.
Right.
I think that is what the global Indian, like living a life that makes you happy, where you're able to do things that you enjoy outside of work. It's not about going to the best schools and getting degrees. And this stuff was really cool 30 years ago, right? Like, I became an engineer, I went to, IIT and then did this and did that. And as I'm sure you see this with so many young founders, for instance, like some of them are like college dropouts, right? Like I worked with a girl in Bangalore who left Harvard after a year because she had an idea and she had this burning desire to execute her startup, and she's like, screw that, this is what I'm doing. And I think that to me is the idea of like
a global Indian.
Just someone who loves to travel, loves to explore, loves to like go to different countries and stuff. This is something that everyone is doing, right? Regardless of age.
So Sirf Coffee has a lot of competitors, right? They do.
Yeah, I wouldn't call them competitors, but a lot of players in the dating market. Yeah.
And are you scared of them? Are you thinking that they are going to take away my business, or how does it work?
I find that the more the merrier.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, because I think when we started off, and this is actually a true story, I was working with someone in South Bombay, and I said, you have to go to a website, put in your details. And people didn't even want to go to a website and put in personal information. Here we are in this day and age ordering a toothbrush from Amazon, right? But people wouldn't go online. And then, I remember she was an architect, very nice looking, studied in the US. She was working here. And she was slated to meet this guy from Bandra. So we'd set up the date. We also set up the date, the logistics of everything. And she says, will you also be there? So I said, why will I be there? Or will someone from your company be there sitting at another table? And I said, to what? To like watch you guys. From that to like,
you cannot go and see the chemistry between those two people, right? She has to decide.
I'm guessing it's something that used to happen.
Right.
So cut from that to now putting your picture, location, interests on an app.
You're literally telling everything about yourself on Instagram, on socials.
It's super public now. And then a lot of these dating platforms are a result of, like let's say they're a dating app or they're algorithmic based. They are playing a lot on like numbers and volume to sort of facilitate something. So I'm sure, look, I'll play devil's advocate. You can find your partner on any platform, right? But I think it's also important to choose a platform that speaks to you.
Yeah.
So if you're not...
And where are you at that point of state in your life,
Absolutely.
right?
Like if people feel they want something serious and want to get married, they will come to a Sirf Coffee because there's skin in the game.
Right.
There's an application process, there's authenticity, there's a matchmaker, a real person who's looking out for me.
So how do you,
Right?
so authenticity, right? This was a question. So when I told everyone that I'm interviewing Naina from Sirf Coffee, right? So they asked like, how do you know that profile the person is authentic? How do you, because I can fill all the details in the world about me, right? How would you,
Fair enough.
How do you go about?
Yeah, so we do a basic social background check, and I mean, that's simple to do, anyone can do that. But I think the whole meeting in person or interacting with this person is a huge game changer, right? Like we feel that 90% of our clients have grown because of word of mouth. So if someone says, this is my cousin, this is a friend, and things like that, I think that really cements things from it being a completely, unknown person. Having said that, I've worked with some of the best people in my life who just, I don't know, saw a post of mine on LinkedIn or like Instagram, or they were browsing. There was one guy who we got married from Bombay who heard about us in a smoke break.
Really?
He was very drunk. And he was out at a party and went out for a smoke. And then someone said, "Arey," some guy struck up a conversation with him and said, "How are you? This, that. Oh, are you dating somebody?" He's like, "No, I'm single. I'm still looking." And he's like, "Try Sirf Coffee." And that guy came home, hungover, like passed out, woke up the next day, but he remembered Sirf Coffee.
Yeah,
And he went and signed up, and he's now happily married and has a daughter, I believe. So
that's great.
I think sometimes you got to go with your gut. You said it earlier. There will always be something that you can't account for.
Right.
I think nothing in the world is fail-safe. Be it a arranged, rishta from somewhere where you could be neighbors with this person for 40 years. There's always, till you don't live with them in the four walls of your home, there's something you will not know.
Have you ever come across this profile of a Tinder swindler? Do you?
I have actually.
Oh, we would love to know that story.
I mean, it's a bit crazy. I think one of the women he met brought it up to us, and then we see what can we do except address take it up with somebody. You're not their mom, right? You can't say what you're doing is right, what you're doing is wrong, but you can choose to disassociate.
Right.
So this is a very real thing that I think matchmakers don't talk about because they feel it might hurt the business or something. But acknowledge, own up, right? And if this is something you could have caught, great. But if it's something you can't, then you can't.
And you just drop off that candidate? I mean...
Yeah, I mean, ban them.
You do?
Completely, yeah. We would never work with someone like that again. But that these
even
instances...
though, sorry, to just cut you off, even though it's difficult for business, you'll cut them off?
100%. There's no question. There is no compromise when it comes to that, because I think personal safety and well-being and people being happy, if there's anything that makes someone uncomfortable, it has to be flagged to us. There is no doubt about that.
And have people call you in between dates and they're like, what is happening? We're just going home.
No, we've been very, maybe lucky.
Touch wood.
Oh, yeah. I don't know, but in like, for instance, 10 years, I can't even count all the instances on one hand. So it's very, very few and far between. And it's usually some kind of very strange incident. But other than that, we work with amazing people. In fact, they encourage us to do better or motivate you, right? Once you've had one success story, you're just like, I want to get 3 more people married this month, let's get on it.
So with these numbers, right, success stories, how many profiles does one person see before so one date, right? How many will you match them up with?
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So we have, for instance, 3 different membership plans, right? Okay. Depending on the tenure. I would say generally, we still set up a handful of dates. Like we don't mass matchmake. Right? Sadly, the swipe culture embodies that. Literally, you can meet a new person every day.
Every hour. I have a friend who goes...
on 2 dates in a day.
She just goes about chilling with 3-4
Different
dates
people.
a day. Yeah, like morning, you can just go home now. In the afternoon, she's meeting someone else.
Wow.
At night, she's meeting someone else. She's like, I just get bored. I want to meet people. And even though she's not doing anything, she's just like, I'm just going meeting people, and there are weird people I meet, and I run off, and then I meet someone else. I'm bored.
Fair enough.
How do you solve for the bored? Sorry, I have questions. How do you solve?
People are super busy. That's why they come to us. Like I worked with a founder who was in his mid-20s recently. raised 2 rounds already, kind of like an overachiever. And I said, he chose a plan which allows him to work with me one-on-one. And I said, you're 26, like, kya hua? And he's like, I'm just really busy. I want personal attention from you, and I'm not looking to meet 15 women. I want to meet someone that you genuinely think is a match for me. And this is a true story. He's like a one-date wonder. He is now dating the person I introduced him to since 8 months, over 8 months now.
Is there
I'm very
pressure,
happy.
too much pressure on you also to make them meet the one?
Yes, I think they do put pressure. I think people put their emotions on somebody else. And this is a very real thing, right? Like, they get upset, they feel lonely sometimes, or like, the worst is when Valentine's Day is around the corner. Khatam. I'll get like 50 emails from like everyone saying, what's happening, what's happening, what's happening? Shadi season.
Oh.
The holidays, right? Christmas, like in the UK, US, around the holidays, people feel
very lonely.
Yeah, they feel lonely. Everyone's gone away for their vacation. So these are things we are mindful about. I understand that someone's feeling this way and we have to help them in the best way that we can. What I refuse to do is set up a bad date.
You refuse to set up a bad
Yeah, like if I think it's going to bomb, like I don't see anything in common. I mean, it's just something I will not do, even if...
And the waiting game? Do they like the waiting game?
Not at all. There's no patience. There's no patience. As we were discussing, because of the social, psychological impact of dating apps, there seems to be like a notion that this is as easy as ordering a sandwich for lunch.
Quick commerce? Yeah, you can just order someone you want to meet and they can just
entertain yourself.
Yeah.
So then again, I'm not working with that demographic. I'm working with a demographic that's very busy, probably quite accomplished, got a lot going on. Like we also work with people who jet set around the world a lot. You know, they're in different countries. There's a young guy I worked with who set up a business in the US and like London. And so he's open to meeting people in like 2 different countries.
And you would always imagine these people are always meeting someone or the other, right? For us, for people like us, for laymen, right? They will always imagine that a person who's 26, well settled, raised funding, as you said, right? That person would be meeting people all the time. But they are also lonely.
Maybe not to date, right? So I would imagine, first of all, he'd be meeting a lot of men.
Right.
The second thing is, if you are meeting women, like, you know, sometimes at the workplace, you might feel attracted to somebody. There may be policies that don't allow you to date or interact. And then, like I said, now it's just become a very enhanced list of what I want. So someone just, you know, being nice is not enough. Someone being attractive to me is not enough. I want like 15 things in that, which is what makes it harder. Expectations have changed. 100%. It was 20 years ago, it was good enough to marry a guy.
And Sirf Coffee is all inclusive, right? You do not question people on the basis of who they want to be a partner with, if they are bisexual, if they are gay.
So we work with, at this point, only we're not working with the LGBTQIA community yet, but and I think the reason also for that is because I think there's a lot that goes in being able to understand the nuances of all of that, and I don't feel equipped. So we've been asked to...
That's quite an honest answer.
Yeah, we've researched this. We actually did... we did studies and research on this for about 3 months last year, and we just felt like it is a different world. It's a very nuanced world, and you need a high level of awareness and knowledge to be able to navigate that world.
And there are legal complications as well, right?
In India, yes, yes. And I think if you're not confident of running with it, then don't. Like, there are people who do queer dating and.
And they come to you. Please help us out, Naina.
People do approach us for sure. But the thing is, like I said, it's getting into that would require like a whole. It's a different ball game. So I can only be my best at work in a world that I'm confident of, right? And I think that's what I can advise. Like I can work with someone who's twice my age. I have no problem with that. I know. I will understand what they're looking for, what the nuances are. But today, for instance, there's like, 6 different identities you could be a part of. What do you want? What do you not want? And not all of it, none of it actually might be related to monogamy.
Right.
For that matter, right? And more power to people and exploration. And I think now is
You
the
don't
time.
question all of this when they come to you?
No, I just have to be honest and say, can I help you? Or, I can't, right? So they're very interested. Like, I find a lot of queer people are seeking committed relationships. And then they are using apps,
Right.
for instance. But it's also because, like you said, in India, there are complications, right? Like, you can't publicly
Declare,
just be
yeah.
out and
You can't.
about. There is like social stigma. There's a lot of, see, sadly in India, we're all privileged in a space to be even talking about this. Like, someone in a tier 2 city is probably scared, someone.
There have been instances where people
Yeah.
are married.
I read about that. I
Yeah.
read about that. Also, like closeted marriages,
Right.
exploitation. There's also, like, I read about, young people. Sometimes if they book a hotel room, they get arrested.
They get arrested and
they
they're
get beaten
humiliated,
up,
yeah.
humiliated. So it's complex. And I think if the time comes, I mean, sure.
Sirf Coffee is always there.
I mean, someday, but
Someday, yeah.
not yet.
But
yeah.
that's a really honest answer. So between the split, right, Sirf Coffee now, Tinder or any other dating apps, right, you can meet people.
Yeah.
But the biggest problem that women face is there
Yeah.
are too many men, right? There are too many men. And what is the split in Sirf
Yeah,
Coffee?
we enjoy a 60-40 women to men split.
wow.
So it's a lot of fantastic women who are struggling to find men who match up. And I'm really proud of that stat because it's been like that from the very beginning, because they have a sense of comfort. They're forthcoming. Like, I think biologically also, if I may say so, I think we're wired differently
Right.
to this approach. There is a sense of, with women, they'll just be so straightforward, right? Like, even if she's a CEO and went to like 3 top schools, she'll say, like, I'm single, I need help, I want to meet the right person, let's do this. They are willing to put themselves out there. And
it's very easy for women to sort of talk about what they are feeling.
absolutely, and commit to the process,
Right.
right? It's at the end of the day, when you work with a matchmaker, it's like having, for instance, someone wants to lose weight, right? You can do group classes and lag behind somewhere. You can be like, I'm really serious. I'm gonna get on a nutritional plan. I'm gonna hire a fitness trainer.
Right.
You see the results
Right.
are very different. And it's the same thing with us. And then with men, they'll be like, yeah, let me think about it. I'll come back. Then when they'll go on a bad date,
They'll come back to you.
They'll come back or they'll say, now I'm ready. Or like, this is what I want to do. So I feel there's a bit of distraction when it comes to that, whereas women are just on the ball.
So Sirf Coffee has not raised funding, and why is that, Naina?
I think we've been lucky. We've been bootstrapped since day one, and just grew very quickly, seeing growth internationally, also in India. We have a base here in Mumbai, we have a base in London. And I think if at all, we do something, it'll be resonating with our values and the brand's integrity. So we want to be mindful of that.
You don't want to run after numbers.
Numbers are a part of business. You can be very, very skilled and so good at what you do, but growth is important as well. And I don't not acknowledge that. It's just, I think one of the reasons we work well as a team is because I think my brother's got that great growth mindset and business/strategic decisions, whereas I'm very around the human orientedness of what we do, right? Because people will come to Sirf Coffee because of the founders or a person or the brand or what it resonates. And I think that messaging and all the digital noise is like hard to sort of, retain, right? Like all of you will resonate with a dating app with something or the other.
Right.
You know which app is for hooking up and you know which app is a little serious. And I think we also want to maintain our brand integrity where, like I said, I've been blessed to work with phenomenal people who will never be public about
what they're going through.
Yeah, or like their personal status, right? Their relationship status, and yet they will make themselves available, go on dates and do Sirf Coffee. So I think that endorsement is great. We have PE, VC, people on our books, top firms. People are interested in the business, they're curious, they're really sweet. They say, when you do something,
They're
I'm
going
open
be
to a
there,
chat. Yeah. So, in fact, recently I went for a fireside chat, and I met someone very prominent in the VC world, and I was waiting for the elevator, and it so happened that he was leaving the event and I was leaving, and I gave him my card and I said,
You gave him your elevator pitch?
I didn't actually. I just gave him my card and he said, I know about you.
Oh.
And I've been following you guys. So I think like everyone knows what people are, what everyone's up to. And he's like, if you ever need advice, hit me up. And I thought, which is very kind of him.
Right.
So we had a very nice non-businessy
Conversation.
yeah. In fact, even stuff like Shark Tank, a lot of my clients have pitched on Shark Tank. So I think I'm surrounded by inspirational stories and young people trying to build something, which is amazing.
Which is amazing. Yeah. So are you guys profitable?
Yes.
Yes, you
Yes.
are. That's something we don't often hear in this podcast, at least when we ask them. But yeah.
Yeah, and I think it depends on the nature of the business. The fact that we've been around for so long, we've kind of navigated these things very early on. Whereas today, I think honestly, to start up isn't the easiest thing, and I feel it's very glamorized.
And do you think as a woman it's more difficult?
I think not anymore.
But
maybe
was it?
It could have been opportunities, the scope to do something. Also, like, it's a very hard route to take, right? But we've seen so many inspirational female leaders, very young women, like really catapult in these last 10 years, that I think now it's no longer like, every time I'm on Instagram, they're like, this entrepreneur has crossed 30 crores. I'm just like, wow, like either that's a really good pitch to the audience, but I am seeing that women are taking risks. They're building things that they want to, and they're going for it, which is amazing.
They are, but not everyone is as confident as you, Naina, right?
Yeah,
they're not. You have this personality where you can go and have a seat on the table and you're like, this is the table I'm going to sit here, right? But that doesn't happen with a lot of people.
But you have to earn it. You have to work on yourself. You have to like develop yourself and try and making inroads, because I think for so many people, it's not as easy. Like I've sometimes worked with people who may let's say be privileged, but like they're not able to crack it with the business, with the startup, or like they're still struggling. Right. So I think if you have an idea, go for it, try it, see how it works, meet people. Don't be ashamed to like ask questions. And I think we all become very, mujhe sab pata hai, and like, I think you gotta.
There's no question like a dumb question.
Yeah, you gotta ask questions. You gotta educate yourself. A lot of these programs are out that sort of help people join a networking kind of group. Meet people to talk to, because I feel like there's a lot of stuff out there. There's a lot of resources, right? And we didn't, like I said, we didn't have that. This profession wasn't even an option 20 years ago.
It is like matchmaking, right? In
only
India,
the aunties were doing it.
Yeah, only aunties were doing it, and you're going to marriage and like, ye ladka acha, ye ladki.
Like sitting in a community hall in some trust with like files, and their glasses and like the fan ka awaaz in the background, like that's what it was.
And then there's also bank balance involved. Is it involved in your matchmaking process as well? Bank balance between the men and the women that you're going to.
So, like, do we match people according to how much they make? I don't think people are super focused on it. I think they want someone who
matches their lifestyle.
Yes, yes. I would think that's a priority, because I think the last thing you want to do is like have weird kind of debates on like who's doing what and how much people are pitching in. But we find that this is not a huge focal point. Like, I would be concerned if someone who comes to me and says, I don't do anything, but I need to be with a billionaire, and I'd be like, yeah, that's another thing I think I want to address, right? Like, sometimes I find it a bit hypocritical of like, we want equality, but then we never want to pay the bills. Like, why? If you are doing relatively well for yourself, why is there so much dependency on your partner? You can build a life together, right? So if you want to buy a home, and if you can afford to chip in halfway, do it.
I think the people who are listening to, especially women who are listening to this, right? There's always this stigma don't pay the bills, look so beautiful, spend so much money, and you go and why can't you just be yourself when you're going on a date, right?
Yeah.
Is that something that you tell your clients?
I think they are pretty much are themselves and very confident. And I think the other aspect is, see, we all live in a world where we're making an impression.
Right.
Right? So I don't think everyone needs to be high maintenance, right? I don't think you need to keep shopping all day or like, put on loads and loads of makeup or this and that. But I do think there are certain things you do that make you feel good, right? So
do it for yourself.
Absolutely.
Don't do it for the crowd.
Absolutely. Like, if you want to go blow dry your hair and it makes you feel good, go do it, right? But when you are putting yourself in front of somebody, and especially matchmaking, right? You're not job hunting, you're not meeting a friend where you just rolled out of bed and decided to do that. So I think there's some basic hygiene that is required, right? Or these sort of checks. Even when someone does a video call, we always do, like if it's a morning time, we say, bring your coffee with you.
Right.
Like make an effort, make an impression, even if it's on video. And if
Make
it's
it
the
feel
evening.
very natural rather than you coming in, sitting there for an interview. Right?
Yeah, because it's a date,
Right.
And you're trying to have a conversation to explore each other. And if it's the evening, we say, bring a glass of wine.
Oh.
So you feel like you're maybe at a restaurant in two different places, but do what feels most natural, be yourself. This is something we do encourage, for sure.
For women who are watching this, right, what is the one piece of advice you'd like to give them? That just be yourself, or
Relationship related?
Relationship related, work related. You can give us 2-3 advice. We are okay with it.
I think focus on things that really mean something to you, right? We are often very discouraged or told that we can't do something, we're not good enough, or like, what will log kya kahenge is my favorite.
My favorite.
And I'm just like, you need to block all of that out and just go for it. Whether it's your career, whether it's a relationship, just do it. You have one life, right? And we don't realize it, but there's so many people who don't have that ability to even do basic things, right? Sadly, we are living in a time, even in 2024, where there is a full-blown war happening in the world, right? So you have one life, you have ideas, you have dreams, pursue them. Don't be discouraged by, and I think I got a good sense of that, luckily, because I'm in a family that supports, my dreams and stuff. Like the minute I turned 16, my mom's like, do you know how to make a roti? And my dad's like, F that, go get a job.
Right.
And my first, literally part-time job in college was, I sat at a designer studio in Khar. I just walked in. I met this guy who was the GM, managing the brand. And he's like, how did you get here? How did you even come into my cabin with with a sheet of paper? And it was a luxury bespoke menswear. And, they used to import brands from Italy. And I think literally when I was 17, I sold a suit for 25,000 rupees.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't know anything about the fabric.
And you just spoke your way through
Yeah,
it.
I was just like, yeah, this color looks good. This cut looks good. Of course, there was a master tailor and stuff like that. But that's my point. Just get out there and do it. You'll surprise yourself.
Next question, right, Naina? How do you deal with imposter syndrome, if any? Knowing your personality, I don't think
I don't think I've had it, sadly. I think have had too much confidence, or I don't know what it is, but there have been times where obviously you feel like, am I in the right place? What am I doing? I feel stuck. But I think the best way to deal with it is maybe sometimes take a break or recalibrate, think. And I think I felt that way at my old job, right? Where I felt I wasn't being recognized for things that I brought to the table. And sadly, sometimes there's a bigger system you can't fight. You're just like, I'm not going to stay here for another 10 years to prove that, I can do all of this. I think sometimes it's okay to walk away from a situation, go to a place or a company or build something where you feel valued. And
that's very important, right? As women, 100%. We don't speak about, we don't come to the table and negotiate about what we want.
Absolutely. And if you want that, you want to be there, right? And if you don't want to be there, then find something else or upskill. This is also something that I think people need to keep doing. And I keep pushing my team on this front. Someone will come to me and say, I do marketing. And I'm like, that's great. Aur kya hai? And then they're like, no, I've been doing marketing for like 8 years. And then we will push them into the deep end. We're like, hey, now so we're organizing a singles mixer in Bangalore for like 80 people. Let's get started. And they'll be like, what? And I'm like, and you'll have to open with a speech.
Oh, wow.
Like, but will not sleep for like 3 nights.
But it's worth it, right? In the end.
You gotta support and push people as well, right? And I think till you don't try it, you don't know. You could fail. It's okay to make mistakes, but you have to keep also, I think, and maybe our generation, we're very hard on ourselves.
Yes, we are.
If that's, you know.
And do you think as women also we are very hard on ourselves?
Yes, because we're all sometimes expected to miraculously have everything
under
control, get it together. And like, I've learned that also with time, like things to say no to. Right? So if something's out of bandwidth, like, and there'll be a lot of stuff work-wise or like even personally, you just got to say no, have your boundaries to a point where you feel mentally and physically good. That is very important.
So one last question, Naina, before we begin the fun round, right? What impact do you think that your work will leave?
I think my clients are in a better position to sort of, you know, say that because, again, let the work speak for yourself. So I see happy faces, a lot of great stories, a lot of interconnection, which like blows my mind. I have met people on top of a mountain in a foreign country randomly where they have heard of our brand. They know someone who got married on it. I feel very overwhelmed
with this kind of info. And how many success stories did you guys have?
So success for us is 2 people getting together, like whether they get married or not. Sometimes the outcome is very far away or, you know, it's not in my control. But we do see that 70%, we ran analytics on this, 70% of first dates become second dates, which is a very big stat. So all of you who are watching and have single friends who complain about all the bad dates they went on, you would know that that is crazy good, right? Where at least they wanted to meet the person again. This is not to say that that person wanted to meet them again, but I think that's very hopeful. Because you meet, I kind of interact with people who've gone through so much. Like, let's say that, you know, by the time they're 38, 39, they're like, I don't even know if there's someone out there for me. I don't know if I'll ever get married. I feel very anxious. Them hope. Yeah, I feel very anxious about it. And what your place in life, like, this may again sound pseudo-spiritual, but I'm going to say it. It's like, it's a weird kind of calling. It's like you were meant to be in this exact position where you are now, right? Just like that Michelle Yeoh movie, which won an Oscar. And I find that very extremely cool.
Right.
Right.
And you are where you were supposed to be, right?
Yeah, that we made this happen. This was something we tried.
Do you sometimes have God syndrome also, that you are God? You are making 2 people meet?
Not, definitely.
Because Bhagwan hote hain na, wo to jo
in fact, I think it's all like some kind of weird, you know, connection that finds its way somewhere, like through your work, through the people you meet. Even if I don't work with someone, sometimes we have a conversation that leaves an everlasting impact. I have met people who give me business advice sometimes, or like will share a nugget of information. And it's suddenly I feel like my quotient for curiosity and knowledge is satiated through my job, right? So there is also the dangers of being stuck with something for a long time, right? How do you grow? How do you evolve? And I think through our work, we're trying new things. Like 2 years ago, we started doing these limited edition mixers, right? It's not the Sirf Coffee model, but gave me a chance to meet so many new people. Some of them even started dating through that party and stuff like that. And I think that's when we have to stop being arrogant about what is the right way. This is the way to go. I know everything is the worst attitude to have. You know, you even in dating.
I think that's a great takeaway for all of us. Right?
Yeah. So we don't know everything. We are one tiny speck. Keep learning, keep evolving, be open and stay curious.
Wow, I think that brings us to the end of Behind Closed Doors. I think you have really summarized the entire interview really, really well. Okay, so we have a fun round for you, Naina.
Okay.
I'm going to ask, you have to describe all the things that I say right now, right, in one word. Okay, so Seema Tapadia.
Overrated.
Ghosting.
Tacky.
Hookups.
Moderation.
Love at first sight.
Lust.
At first sight.
I should have said Akshay Kumar.
Algorithms playing Cupid.
2 words, but not yet.
Not yet.
Not
Okay.
yet.
Yeah. Sirf Coffee.
Meaningful.
Oh wow. Okay. So before you leave, Naina, tell us a story which has made you stay where you are in your journey right now. Which has, because there has been bad days also. There are good days, there are bad days, right? But this one story which keeps inspiring you to, I'm meant to be here, like you mentioned, right?
Yeah, this is a bit of a crazy story. And even though these 2 people didn't end up, I thought it was like something that blew my mind. So I'd set up this date in the US. And they met and they had a great time. But they decided not to keep in touch. One of them said, no, not for me. So she turned down the guy, which was fine. And then a few weeks later, they were at the airport in New York. And they were on the same flight, same day, like they saw each other. So initially, they probably felt this is a little awkward or like, crazy. They were on the same flight with seats in the same row. Then they interchanged a little bit because they started talking, built a connection on the flight.
Oh, wow.
For 16 hours,
like
that
a
flight,
movie.
New York to Bombay, with a stopover in Dubai. The air hostess thought that they'd been together for 5 years. Like, how long have you been together is what she asked. And it was so cute that by the time they disembarked, she got off in Dubai, he got off in Bombay. They like dated for a really long time. And I thought that was crazy. That was literally like a movie. And we've had so many other, there was another couple that decided to meet in real life. And that day in Bombay was a red alert day with the rain. So Uber, Olas were cancelled. The government was going crazy. BMC was issuing like, don't leave your home, regarding any circumstance.
It's like a Bollywood movie story.
It was. And then so they met at the airport. They window shopped, beer pia, had a meal, and started dating. They are married now with a 1-year-old daughter.
Oh my God,
So
that's amazing.
they never got to leave the airport. It was like the Tom Hanks, like a terminal situation. But they had a really great time, and I think that's what's crazy, right? If you really are meant to be with someone, or you can spend time with them, it'll happen anyhow. Come cancelled flight or someone turning you down. A lot of people reconnect actually.
So if you guys are looking for a sign, I think what Naina said is,
Get on Sirf Coffee is what I said.
if you want hope, if you have hope, get on Sirf Coffee. Thank you, Naina. I think that has been wonderful.
Thank you so much.
यार मेरी टीम ना मुझे बहुत परेशान करती है. इनको बोलो सब्सक्राइब करे, इनको बोलो लाइक करे. So I'm doing just that. If you have stuck till the end, please like and subscribe because we have some amazing people and their stories, some good, some bad, and very much fun coming on behind closed doors.